everyone, and welcome to this week's Wildlife Wednesday Weekly Roundup. I'm your host, Tenley Thompson, and I can't wait to show you all the fantastic videos we have in store for you this week. The way this is going to work is I'm going to show you the latest and greatest from the Yellowstone Greater Yellowstone ecosystem that our guides have been taking throughout the week. Then, at the end of the broadcast, you'll have a chance to win our trivia question of the week, which is worth a gift card to our EcoTour store. Lastly, I'll be answering your questions live. So if you've got a great question for me, please do let me know. I can't wait to hear it. Just type it in the comment section and we'll go from there. So, to start things off, I thought we'd go for one of the best and brightest and most fun animals in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, the American bison. Let's check in. Laura got a great view of these bison preparing for our annual August rut. These guys were definitely taking things more seriously than we've seen bison in recent weeks, where it's been mostly practicing. Things are starting to get more intense out there in the bison world. Sarah caught this fun view of bison by a bison crossing sign in Yellowstone National Park, including this fellow who found that crossing sign to be great to relieve his itches. She also got a really fun view that occasionally happens to us out on tours, which is when a bison decides to use a road as a thoroughfare. The best thing to do in this case is just to stop, allow the bison to cross by, but definitely a close encounter for her and her guests as that bison moved along and went along his way. Now, I was lucky enough to run into a video this week from a good friend of EcoTours, Kelly Halpin. Now, if you don't know about Kelly, she's really something special. She's an extreme athlete and artist living here in Jackson Hole. And among some of her other accomplishments, she's the first woman to complete the Grand Teton Triathlon, locally known as the Picnic, where you swim across Jenny Lake, climb to the top of the Grand Teton, swim back across, and get to and from Jackson with a long bike ride all the way out to Jenny Lake, all in one day. She's also done all 3 Teton summits in one day and holds the record, the first and only record from a woman. In the meantime, she's been planning out some additional summits this summer, and she had a little bit of a visitor on her climb, certainly not a hike, up Granite Peak. Let's check in.
I see you.
This is Robin. Here we are. We're on the side of Granite Peak. We gotta go, and he's following us. It is unclear if he's friendly, curious, angry, mean, envious, jealous.
Oh no.
We're stoked. Here he is. Oh boy. Hey bud. We'd appreciate your diligent departure. We appreciate that this is your home and that you're a much better climber than we are.
Oh gosh.
What? Big AF.
Oh no. We got goats.
We got goats.
Oh no, he's coming in.
Following us. We're not sure it's nice.
Oh god. Oh no. Oh no. He's coming for us.
So, a big thanks to our friend Kelly Halpin for that really funny footage. If you haven't had a chance to meet or follow Kelly Halpin, it's really fun to follow her explorations on social media and at kellyhalpin.com. I'm sure Taylor, who's in the comment section for us, can go ahead and connect you guys a link. All the things she's doing, that outdoor mountaineering, being the first woman to meet some of those summits, is really great stuff. She's got some pretty amazing artwork out there too, so well worth checking out. And a big thanks to Kelly for letting us feature that footage today. Now, why was that goat following them? I've definitely had this experience myself, as have quite a few other people. It's not uncommon for mountain goats to follow high country hikers and mountaineers. And that's because when we sweat, we're emitting salt. And salt is really rare in the alpine world. And so while I don't know what was going on in this circumstance, it's quite common for mountain goats to try and lick bags or even shirts that are left out to dry, or other items that might contain salt. Even urine in the backcountry, which has salt in it, can be an attractant to mountain goats. So maybe this goat thought that perhaps it could get a little bit of get some minerals up in the high country by licking them a little bit, or at least their bags or something they left out that the goat might have gotten his horns into. Now, lots of backcountry hikers and mountaineers have had this happen to them. The Park Service says the best thing to do, of course, is keep your stuff nearby you. Mountain goats are very shy. They're certainly not going to become aggressive, particularly in the summer when it's not their breeding season. If worst comes to worst, just wave your hands, tell that goat to go off and mind his own business. But pretty darn funny to see what happened to them there. All right, let's get out of the high country and get back down to the valley floor. A lot of you have been asking for updates on Grizzly Bear 399. And we do have a great brief little photograph for you from our eco-tour biologist, Jeff. Jeff was able to get a brief view of her and the 4 cubs crossing the road. They're looking fine, no concerns about them. It's pretty common for her to not be seen too often this time of year. Oftentimes weeks will pass, maybe more, between sightings. Most of the grizzly bears in the park are up in the high country, up in the scree fields, the boulder fields, eating army cutworm moths. So we may not see her again for some time. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with her. For those who've been emailing us and sending messages asking about her, being concerned, she's doing just fine, not to fear, and the 4 cubs all look healthy and well. All right, let's check out some more predators that we saw this week, because we saw a whole bunch. Sarah had an unexpected view of a black bear crossing a road on her multi-day trip this week. We'd always want to give bears more space than this when crossing the road, but by the time Sarah realized the bear was there, of course, she was a little closer than she would have liked to have been. So she just stopped the car, let him continue on, as was the best option ethically towards this bear at the time. She also got some great views of wolves on her multi-day trip to the northern range of Yellowstone National Park. We're going to have more of that footage for you next week. It's a little hard for her to get the clips to us via satellite, but this is a little bit of a sneak peek for you of this lone wolf crossing in front of some bison. Meanwhile, Tyler in Grand Teton National Park got a view of a very large animal crossing off of a bend of the Snake River. There's a lot of confusion about what the heck this was till they put some binoculars on it. Any guesses? Can anybody guess what animal this is? It is, in fact, a young subadult grizzly bear. And Tyler got a little bit of shaky footage showing this young fellow with the red ear tags and collar, which is suggestive it might be the offspring of Blondie or 399. So, while predators can be a little harder to find in July and August because of the heavy heat of the summer, we're usually pretty successful. I had a fantastic trip last night with a really great view of a black bear, but sometimes these animals move so quickly we can't get you a video. So we've got some more video that came in just this morning. I didn't have time to put it in the broadcast for this afternoon. Wolves, grizzlies, all sorts of great footage from some of our multi-day trips up into northern Yellowstone that we'll have for you next week as well. In the meantime, let's check in with the hoofed mammals of the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. The grasses are green and long and lush, and these guys are making the best of summer. Following an unusually wet spring and deep snow winter, the grass is long and luscious out there, and the pronghorn antelope are certainly taking advantage. You can see a large nursery group of fawns. Remember, pronghorn always give birth to twins out in the open meadows. Laura and Mike both got some great views of pronghorn, including Mike's view of these nursing twin fawns with their mother. And you can see that pronghorn have a fascinating coat in that they've got this very loose, easy to handle the heat outer coat, and then a downy underlayer underneath that coat so that they stay warm in the winter. Now these fawns are going to continue to nurse throughout the summer, and then come fall, learn the migratory pattern of over 100 miles to head south for the winter. Eric got such a cute, adorable view of a baby moose this week, and you can see the moose are busy feeding on those long, lush green grasses as well. Now this calf is, of course, still nursing from its mother, but part of learning how to be a moose is learning what's good to eat, and by mimicking its mother and eating what she's eating and trying out different foods in its first summer, this calf will learn all the vital skills it needs to effectively gain calories as an adult. Now, mom will keep this calf for up to 2 years, and so it's still got a lot of learning to do, but fun to see it eating those green grasses. Laura got a great view of a big, velvety bull out near the Grovant River in Grand Teton National Park, and you can see these bulls, they're going up to 1 inch of antler a day, busy eating the willows, the riparian lakeside, streamside vegetation habitat, and getting fat and fit for their annual breeding season, which is coming up this fall. Now there's lots of elk out there, but this was a really neat view Sean got of this bull elk crossing the highway. Most of them are up in the high country, keeping cool and their distance from people. And then last but not least, we got this great view from Mike of bison enjoying those nice tall grasses and the dog days of summer. So lots of fun for those hoofed mammals out there this week. So, where's everybody joining us from? You know my favorite part of these videos every week is seeing all of the amazing places that people are getting a view of this video. So please comment in the comment section where you're watching from. I'd love to hear it. And don't forget, at the end of the broadcast, I'll be answering your questions. So if you've got some questions as these videos come up and you've got some questions about the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem, Jackson Hole, geology, biology, wildlife biology, please do give us a question in the comments section. I'll see if I can't get you guys some answers. It's super fun for me to be a little stumped. So even if I don't know the answer, I promise we'll find a way to find out for you. But you know what? There's more to the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem than predators and large mammals. Let's check in with the birds, insects, and small mammals of the ecosystem with some great videos that we caught this week. Eco tour guide Laura has been keeping an eye on a red-tailed hawk nest this summer. Now, for those of you guys who've been watching our broadcast over the last couple months, you know that Mark was tracking a different red-tailed hawk nest, and those chicks have flown the nest, and this particular chick is probably less than a week from doing the same. You can see the parent here keeping a watchful eye for predators and other animals who might be coming after this chick. But the chick's been taking a lot of practice flights. It's been doing a lot of hopping around, exercising its wings, getting ready to go. The parents are still continuing to feed this one youngster, but we think we probably don't have a lot longer to go until this guy's on his own. So really kind of fun, maybe our last view this week of this little red-tailed hawk nest. Jeff had some fun views of a great blue heron rookery this week, both the young and the parents, you can see with the much longer, stringier feathers, as well as a great horned owl sighting, which was really fun to see. Laura got a view of one of my favorite animals of the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem, a male American kestrel. I think they're just incredibly colorful, beautiful birds. Smallest bird of prey in the United States. She also got a view of this bald eagle in a cow field. Not quite sure what it was doing there, but pretty fun to see a big adult eagle. And then Mike actually got a red-tailed hawk in flight. Neat to see that red tail there. Now, for all of you asking for more insects, Laura got this view of one of my favorite dragonflies in the area, the flame skinner. These guys are almost 2.5 inches long. They're beautiful, vibrant orange. Only the males are orange, so we know this one's orange. The females are a little bit more brown. But these guys are a true dragonfly. You can tell because the wings are held out to the side versus wings being held more upright, which would mean it would be more of a damselfly. So the next time you see one of these guys, you see them out on the sides, you're going to know, you can tell your friends that's a dragonfly versus the wings that are held more upright, that's going to be a damselfly. We also got a view from Laura of this hunting fox on the side of the road. He pounces just as a car goes by, but is successful. Hard to see what that is. Maybe a Uinta ground squirrel or montane vole for dinner for that fellow. And then we have a great view of a beaver actually carrying, looks like maybe lupine flowers across the pond to their lodge and dam to dam up some holes. So thanks to Mike for that. Meanwhile, Sarah got this great view of this big bad beaver making use of the cambium, the inner bark of a nearby tree, for a little bit of a evening snack. So thanks very much to Sarah for that great view of a beaver. Gotta love those beavers. That cambium, the inner bark of trees, is some of the most nutritious vegetative content in the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem. So a little counterintuitive that animals would eat that inner tree bark, but animals like porcupines, beavers, muskrat, it's a primary element of their diet, as well as much larger animals like moose and even occasionally bison and elk. Pretty cool stuff. Now, I know you guys said you wanted more insects. I've got more butterflies coming for those who love the butterflies next week, but I was really excited to see that dragonfly. So a big thanks to Laura for that, as well as she's got some great geyser footage that we're going to be previewing through the next week. All right, so if this was really fun for you guys, it'd be great if you'd like and share this video. I know you hear that a lot. We're not out here to bug you or be annoying, but it makes a big difference for us in whether we can continue to broadcast these. So if you enjoy it and you'd like your friends to see, or if you've got kids who might like to ask a question of a wildlife biologist, do like and share our video and we'll go from there. Now I've got our trivia questions of the week for you, and then I'll be answering your questions live. The way this is gonna work is we're gonna show you last week's trivia question, and then we're going to give you a chance to win a $10 Eco Tour gift store card with this trivia question of the week. So first I'm going to show you the first one, the one from last week, which has already been rewarded with a gift card. But you can go ahead and guess in the comment sections if you'd like. And then I'll show you this week's trivia question. Now the Eco Tours gift store that you can win a gift card to, we created during the first wave of the COVID pandemic when we were shut down. And all the proceeds from our web store go to fund employee health insurance for both our guides and office staff. So if you'd love to support us, we sure would appreciate it if you take a look at our store and see if there's anything fun that you'd like. Our featured item this week is from guide Josh Metton. This is his photography. He's got a set of 5 cards, photo cards that you can order on the website. We'll send them your way. You can get grizzly bears and cubs from the comfort of your home. And there's some really, really fantastic stuff in there, including just a stunning black bear photo. So thanks very much to Josh for that. I hope you guys will take a look. And in the meantime, let's take a look at the trivia question from last week. So this is part of a series that I have been doing over the last couple years, where I've been taking x-rays. Some of you guys might not know this, but I'm a veterinary technician as well as a wildlife biologist. So I've been using a high-powered, brand new fancy schmancy x-ray to take photos of skulls of the different wildlife of the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem. And I thought it would be fun last week to take one of these photos and make it into a trivia question. So I cropped everything but the top right corner, so it'd be a little bit more difficult, and asked everybody, what animal is this? Now, if you've got any guesses, go ahead and give me a guess in the comments section. But I'm going to go ahead and give you a hint. It's clearly got a horn, right? So the nature of horns is they're one solid piece, usually bone, growing from the head that does not branch or prong, and usually males and females will have horns. The nature of antlers is that it is a solid piece growing from the head, usually bone, but it does branch or prong, and with a couple of rare exceptions, only males will have them. So an example of horns would be something like a bighorn sheep, or a cow would have a horn as well. An example of an antler would be something like a moose or an elk, something that's covered in velvet in the summer, branches or prongs, and is shed every year. So if you look carefully at this, it doesn't branch or prong, does it? So our first hint is that it's definitely a horn. Our second hint is that it has a sheath going around it. And of course, there's only one animal in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, wild animal, that has a horn shaped like that. So for those of you guys who guessed, it is a bison x-ray. That is the skull of a bison. If you enjoy seeing these x-rays, let me know. I'll share some more for you over the coming weeks. But let's go ahead and get to the main event, which is the trivia question for this week. This week's trivia question is brought to us from our naturalist, Laura, and she wants to tell you all about the Snake River Cobra. Now, that's not what it is, but we call them Snake River Cobras because they hiss and they look a little bit like cobras. So take a look at the animal in this video and comment in the comment section, what is the actual name of this animal, despite the fact that the guides have the nickname of a Snake River Cobra. So thanks, Laura, for this. Let's take a look.
We call them Snake River Cobras because they look like little head of a cobra.
You have to stick your head up, yeah.
They hiss like a cobra. They're funny.
Okay, did you figure out what it is? Pretty common animal in North America. The name is often mispronounced. In fact, it's a bit of a pet peeve of mine that people call this animal slightly by the wrong name. And I don't know if I can give away more than that. So go ahead and comment in the comment section what animal that is. We're going to go ahead and we'll let this run for a couple days, and then we'll contact by randomly drawing a winner from the correct answers for that gift card. So if you know the answer, go ahead and comment in the comment section. Snake River Cobra is not a correct answer, as much as we like to call them that. I am actually looking for the real name of the animal. You don't have to give me the scientific name. But you do have to give me the common name for that animal. Okay, so that's pretty fun, guys. Now comes my favorite part of the program. I'm here to answer your questions live. So if you've got a question, go ahead and ask it in the comment section. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look in my little iPad here at the comments, and I'll see if I can't get everybody some answers. So bear with me, because I got to look down and see if I can't get everybody a few answers. Let's see. Colin is asking, how high up are those mountain goats? Colin, I don't know. I didn't ask Kelly, but they're definitely above tree line. So they're above 10,500 feet. And based on the crazy things that Kelly's always getting herself up to, and the fact that there's snow up there in those snow fields, I would argue it's probably above 12,000 feet that she was seeing those mountain goats. So pretty incredible stuff. Way, way up there for sure. Oh, lots of folks coming in from all over the country and the world. That's so fun to see. Hi, Kelly from Wisconsin. It's great for you to tune in. Thanks very much. Jean, I hope you visit us next summer. We're sorry to hear you're not here. Okay, Kobe says, you mentioned moose calves will stay with their mom up to 2 years. What's the youngest age that one might be left loose? Well, you know, obviously there are always exceptions to any rule. So grizzly bears keep their cubs for 2 to 2.5 years, and moose keep their calves for 2 to 2.5 years. I have certainly seen yearling moose calves on their own, but I don't think it was probably intentional. Sometimes during the breeding season in the fall, these mothers with calves will get mixed up in the rut, and these bulls will think, oh, I want this cow moose who's already got a calf. She's not going to come, I mean, she is going to come into season, but what's going to happen, of course, is sometimes those calves are going to get chased off by the bulls. And of course, the cow moose who's got a yearling, a calf of the year as we call it, isn't going to come into heat, but a mother moose who's got a calf who is coming into its second fall is going to come into heat, and that oftentimes is how moose calves are separated from their mothers permanently, as these bulls do the job for them. They drive them away. So it's an important evolutionary mechanism, but sometimes it can happen a little early. So I have seen, unfortunately, some young calves, too young to be away from their mothers, starting their first winter on their own with maybe not the knowledge base they've needed. I've also seen those calves make it through the winter. So it's not necessarily a death sentence, but far, far better for that calf to spend 2 years with its mother. So hopefully that explanation made sense. I got caught up in my own wording there. But thanks very much for that. That's great. Let's see what else we've got here. Some good guesses on the trivia question. Don asks, has there ever been a white buffalo calf born in the Yellowstone National Park ecosystem? A wild one, not a ranch born. So that's a really good distinction, because we have had several ranch white buffalo calves born. There was one born, I believe, on the Wind River Reservation a number of years ago. There was another one born on another ranch in Wyoming. You know, white buffalo calves are a genetic mutation where the hair on the calf is not forming pigment. So a lot of people know what albinism is, right? And white buffalo calves are not true albinos. It's more a case of a strong piebaldism, where instead of the body producing no pigment, genetically not having the ability to produce pigment, these calves are not producing enough pigment, or large parts of their bodies are not producing pigment, which leaves that kind of white color. So the three main genetic abnormalities you'll see in the mammal world, and that includes people, of course, is albinism, no pigment being produced at all; piebaldism, which can give large swaths of dark or light, either too much pigment being created or not enough. Sometimes the whole animal may be pale or dark, or just patches may be, which is probably a little closer to what's going on with bison calves, although I don't want to get too far afield, but their hair color is created by incomplete dominance, which makes it even more complicated, but let's not go there. And then melanism, which is where the body's producing too much pigment and will create an animal that is black or dark. We're very famous here in the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem for our melanistic all-black marmots, of all things. We also occasionally have an all-black coyote here in the ecosystem, but something like a jaguar would be a good example, or a leopard, of an animal who might have melanism to a purpose, where evolutionarily it's provided them an advantage. So white bison calves in the wild tend to not live very long. They stick out like a sore thumb for predators. I think we've talked about in shows past that bison calves are born bright red instead of the dark shaggy brown of their parents, because most predators are colorblind on the red-green spectrum. Red and green look like the same color to them, and so those bright red calves are actually blending in with the grass when they're really young. They look really obvious to us, but if you're a wolf or a bear, they might be harder to see. They can see, of course, white quite vividly, which makes those young white calves a target. So I do not know of any cases of a true albino, or what we call a typical white buffalo calf, in the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem. There probably has been. I've heard numbers in non-captive situations that white buffalo calves are about 1.5 million to 1 million in rarity. That's about right for color, pigmentation, and mutation. Some species will have color variation more commonly than others. The cat family, for instance, is quite commonly going to have sort of these rare color mutations, which is where we get things like white tigers from, right? But it's also where we get melanistic leopards, all black leopards, from. The deer family has a higher level of albinism than almost any other family in the world, which is why we have a lot of white-tailed deer that show up on occasion. And then the other family where that color mutation is more common is the bear family. There's the very famous white bears. I think they're up in British Columbia, which have a form of albinism. And then there's some thought that polar bears may have evolved that color variation, that white color that made them much more effective at hunting seals, as a random mutation that gave them an advantage out on the ice over grizzly bears with the darker color. Although hard to know. Grizzly bears and polar bears are very closely related. So to get back to your question, because you know me, I'll go on tangents when you guys ask me questions. I don't know of any white bison calves in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem historically. Be a great question to ask the Shoshone elders on the Wind River Reservation. That kind of knowledge would oftentimes be passed down through their culture. Also something to be asked of the Crow people and some of the other native peoples who were here before white Europeans came into the area. They may have an ancestral memory of an animal like that that I wouldn't necessarily be aware of. So really good question. I may have to do some research, and if I find out anything more, I will let you guys know in the comments section. But thank you, that was really fun. I get really excited about color variations. If you've never seen an albino cardinal or an albino moose, which is worth a Google, they're pretty extraordinary. I think my favorite animal with albinism would probably be a raccoon, because they don't look anything like raccoons without those stripes. You wouldn't think that the stripes would have so much to do with how a raccoon looks. So if you're bored, get on Google, give those guys a look. Maybe Taylor will link to some of those photos for me. But it's great fun to talk about color mutations and variations. Such a fascinating subject. So thanks very much for that. Let's see here. What do we got? More good questions. Have I ever seen a hybrid mule deer, whitetail deer in the wild? Yes, I have, actually. I've seen quite a few over the years. It seems like I'm seeing them more often than I did when I was young. The first time I probably saw one, I was maybe 13, 14 years old. Now it seems like I see one like once a summer or every other summer. The other thing to consider is we have 3 major deer species in the United States. We've got whitetail deer on the Midwest to the eastern seaboard and some of the West. We've got blacktail deer on the West Coast, and then mule deer right along the Rocky Mountain chain that are kind of in the middle. And the way I differentiate between them, whitetail deer, of course, are gonna have the white tail. They're more slim. I think of them like the ballerinas of the deer world. They're very delicate boned. Mule deer are like the bodybuilders of the deer world. They're built to handle deep snow and long migratory conditions, really burly, built up in a way. They look, you know, completely different than a whitetail. And then blacktail, it's now thought there's some good research out there, might be originally a hybridization between the two that developed into its own species out in California. So great question. I do occasionally see it. Hard, of course, to confirm that it's a true hybrid, but certainly a possibility. They can hybridize. It's really bizarre when it happens because it'll have the antlers of a whitetail and the rear end of a mule deer, and it'll always make me do a bit of a double take. Definitely something that's becoming a bit more common, but when I was a little girl, we didn't have a lot of whitetail in Jackson Hole. We had almost entirely mule deer, and we're beginning to see more and more whitetail here. That's not necessarily a problem per se, but more research needs to be done on the subject to sort of understand why this is happening. Is this something that historically happened before human change to the environment, or is this a new issue? Hard to say. So some good questions there. Thank you very much about that. Mbithi, I'm so excited you're joining us from Kenya. That makes me so excited. Thank you so much for joining our broadcast. That is a joy to see. I think that might be one of the furthest away. I think we had Australia once, maybe Japan, but that's so excited. You might be our first, you're definitely our first Kenyan. You might be our first African. I don't know if we've had somebody from South Africa too, but a big warm welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's see here. Do we have any other questions? I think that's it. If you've got any more questions for me, do ask them in the comment section. I'll be answering them throughout the week. It's so much fun. See if you can't stump me. I'll see if I can't get you guys some answers on that, more answers on that white buffalo question as well. It's been such a pleasure spending this evening on this Wednesday with you all. I hope everyone has a healthy and safe week and a wild weekend. All right, guys. Bye-bye.